Jeez. Alright, Shalom Akim. Before I start, I want to begin by giving infinite praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Makakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, I agree most on the middle teaching real well. And peace and blessings be unto you, fellow Akim, your brothers, that also project this word in faith, truth, and sincerity. And then in this lesson, I want to bring out scriptures on this topic that I've been pondering on for a while. It's actually a little in the title. Lord's willing, the title is actually a quote, all right, from the Apostle Gabar, many moons ago, all right, and it's one of many lessons. The Apostle was just talking about how, which really was actually a rebuke, all right, towards Ayalam Akim, or young brothers like myself, all right, that pretty much do a lot of communication, all right, when it's not necessary, and when there's no need to be to communicate, or in other words, just to talk, plainly put, to be a social butterfly at the wrong times, but nevertheless, all right, the Apostle Gabar said something really important, all right, which was that to be silent, or to remain silent, is a life. Excuse me, it's an art form. Let's say life. All right, it's an art form, man. All right, and it's funny because when I first heard that, I'm thinking to myself that an art form, and then I realized really it's just it's a good skill to have. All right, it's a skill that actually takes a while for you to master, I'd say. So I'm gonna get at the first scripture. This is because we bring this out whenever we're on the highways and hedges, things might get hectic. We bring this out. This is Ecclesiastes 5:1. It says, "Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of the Lord, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil." All right, and not to bash on anyone in particular, and that's not the point here. All right, the point really is just the fact that not only, of course, is admonishment, or really just a warning, I would say, just to any Akim who may hear it. This is also a humbling or humiliating process, because that's what we are. We're for in some brothers' current stages, to any young brothers listening in, it is very important for you to be more ready to hear. All right, then to give the sacrifice of fools, as the scriptures say. All right, and of course, that phrase right there, "keep thy foot." All right, if you go to something simple as the CSB, it doesn't even say it there. I just realized. Hold on. All right. Well, fortunately, I'm not gonna be able to get it just because if I go on Safari or Google, it's gonna act real finicky. But nevertheless, so if I can actually get the same scripture in, I checked CSB and NIV, but I can also look up the Christian Standard Bible. Well, it's like the what's that? Pretty much any other translation, all right, in modern terms or in layman's terms, to where certain phrasing is pretty much translated, because of course this is the Old English, but nevertheless the word "keep thy foot," it's not talking about actual. If brother saw it, it said to guard your steps. It's not talking about brothers' feet positions. This actually means to be quiet, all right, to keep your mouth shut. All right, and another synonym for it is the word dumb, which the word dumb doesn't just mean, doesn't mean to be simple-minded or to be stupid. All right, the word dumb literally just means to one that can't speak, or one that doesn't speak. All right, for example, the word dumbfounded, when a person is astonished, they're speechless, so things like that. Nevertheless, when you go to the house of the Lord, which we know, of course, the real house of the Lord is in the congregation of men, or it's the house of the Lord. All right. So when you're in the midst of the church, when you're in the midst of a teaching, for example, we have to be more ready to hear and to give the sacrifice of fools. Meaning what? Don't be all rambunctious with your speech. All right, with your speech and of course with your actions. Because I mentioned before, even you have scoffers out here that just they'll run amok. Saying all sorts of stuff, not realizing that they're putting their own lives in danger. You know. And funny enough, it says in verse 2, it says, "Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before the Lord. For the Lord is in heaven, Yahweh Shem Yahushai is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few." All right? But of course, upon brothers like myself, and as well as to what? Anyone that dare come up, all right? Anyone that dare to come up and have a rebuttal, all right, towards any brother in any camp, all right? And that dare, all right, that dare to be bold enough to come towards the gospel, man, to come towards the doctrine and say all types of stuff, all right. Those people are being rash with their mouth, all right, and what their heart is hasty, all right. They don't care, they don't process, they don't think before they speak, you know. But let me get this. This is Proverbs. Salaki. This is Proverbs 18:21. It says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." You know? So life and death are in the power of the tongue. All right? And as I mentioned before, you have men that would come up and say all types of rash things with their mouth. Now, I'm not talking about just, things like, throwing insults, false accusations, toward Akim, but also doctrine as well. All right? For example, right now, maybe for these past years, I don't even know, but you have a man locally here in the DMV that's claiming himself, proclaiming with his own words and as well as his followers, all right, with his own mouth, that he is the anointed Son of the Most High. You see, so total blasphemy, all right, that men would say, all right, they're being extremely rash with their mouth, saying all sorts of, blasphemy. Just plain no other word for it. Total blasphemous works. And guess what? He's gonna eat the fruit, all right, of his sayings, all right, and as well as his actions, all right, because his actions come of his actions specifically. This person I'm talking about is what, going up to different camps, all right, brothers teaching, and disrupting camp in the most snake way possible. He may not be coming up in a way to where it seems total bombastic and loud and this and the third, but what he's just he can act like a snake, behind his followers, ask dumb questions, well, not necessarily dumb questions, but ask questions to try to trip up other Akim, and ultimately just say all types of corrupt things, and guess what, that whatever he says, all right, and the things that he even believes, all right, that's said on camera, hey man, life and death are in the balance there, man. Treading on dangerous territory, and it was better for him to, first off, again, just using this man as an example, all right, but that's just one example or one aspect of what the power that comes from just using, or really the responsibility that comes from the things that you say. All right. Another thing too is you see this actually a lot, even in this present evil world. You have reality shows that's based off of especially the women, or the women of our nation, man. All right, so-called blacks and Hispanic women, man. All right, we see that time and time again. All right, how I can't think of one specifically, but they're out there. All right, you have these shows where you have these women and as well as men, all right, of our nation, weak men, all right, beta males, that'll say all sorts of things for shock value, All right, maybe it's blasphemous, maybe it's not, maybe it's just folly, but nevertheless, it's put up to a high estate. And the reason why is because what? It's just it's just hasty speech, and that's the spirit of this world. Just to say anything you want. Don't think before you speak. It don't matter, And here it is now. We're speaking about pretty much proper etiquette, to be within the camp, and also as well as proper etiquette here, or in brothers' lives, being the quiet, being the wise, quiet man. Everybody got different personalities. Not saying for everybody to be quiet as a mouse, But I'm saying that as actually as the scriptures say, there's this time and season for everything. This is Sirach 32:7. It says, "Speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art twice asked. Let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth and yet holdeth his tongue." All right, you see that? I remember even the Apostle Gabar, going back to his testimony pretty much. Even then, even in the old school, all right, how his teachers above him, all right, they themselves, those same elders, those same Zaquanium, also had the pretty much mastered the art of staying quiet, being silent, being in the midst of the church, not to over exaggerate, but he even said that even saying the word Khan might have been saying too much, It's just putting a perspective out there of how serious it was back in the day. But now, here it is. We have to... Wow, it's coming down. The walking can still hear me, but nevertheless, our speech... this is all pretty much set for the purpose of... Really, it's just discipline, all right? And that's a good skill to have. Maybe it's just a habit brothers have had before coming into the truth. Brothers may have been the type of person to speak their mind 24/7, which is nothing wrong with that. But as I said before, as the scripture has said before, there's a time and place for everything. Ain't nothing wrong with being a social butterfly. But here it is, when it's a time for war, when it's a time of camp, when it's a time to teach, it's a time to teach. Let's get into the mind frame. Speak when you're spoken to. Speak when the need is there, and and when you're able. All right, not cutting brothers off. Following in within the order of the camp, things of that nature. All right. 9th verse: If thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them, and when ancient men are in place, use not many words. All right. And I remember, reading this, I'm thinking to myself, anybody that may be reading this might think, especially just new Akim, don't think of this as a way of pride. This is the last thing that's pretty much can be said about it. It's not a prideful thing at all. All right. One thing that they have to get out of this is the fact that we're coming into this as new babes. All right. One thing that can be said, especially if we're talking about the doctrine or the teachings in general, there's not anything that you can possibly, all right, at all, teach or bring something new, quote unquote, to the table that our elders and apostles and the officers or the Shariam, have not already known already. Anything. Whether it's not if secular history, maybe new things, maybe new revelations about the scriptures, which again those things should be left to whoever priest may pertain to. All right, but nevertheless, all right, but. What basically, as a young brother in the faith, what can you possibly bring to the table, man? All right, besides yourself, of course, that being your reasonable service. All right, but what can I or what could you possibly bring to the table, man? And by that I mean putting yourself in the midst of great men, meaning elders, all right? Men have been tried, all right, and even then those men still remain humble, all right. This is Hebrews 5:12. It says, For the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of the Most High. You see? So this isn't, again, like I said before, this isn't the way of pride, but it's also it's also skill building. And third, also, that's just the order of the camp. All right? That's just the order of really how the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, has set this up. I always remember that always have that in the forefront of your mind. Whether or not you're getting corrected, whether or not it's an order that you just been given in camp, do it and take it proudly. Excuse me. Take it proudly, as in whatever you do, just take it gladfully and also honorably in the eyes of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, whatever it may be, small or great. Because ultimately, it's a husbandry, as the scriptures talk about. It's a work that the Lord hath ordained. All right. So, and that's an oracle. That's a principle. Meaning what? That's just the way things go in this house, man. All right, that's the way how this is how the Lord is running His household. All right, and to go outside of that, it's just what not only is it confusion, but what it's just out of order. All right, I'm gonna end it off with this. I don't know. It's a quick lesson. It's a pretty much a lesson. It's a real simple one. You know, this is Sirach 21 and 26 because this is not only a social skill, but it's also a skill that you can even learn, that you can use that day in and day out in brothers' lives, man, in whatever which way you go. I remember there's a saying how in school, if you were the quiet kid, you pretty much knew almost everything about every classmate. And why is that? Because more than likely you're in a classroom, you got loud ass students being obnoxious, talking loud, right, talking a lot. And next thing you know, what you're gonna hear certain things that they'll say because they're careless and not circumspect. But here it is. If you were the quiet kid, more than likely, you're not talking to anyone. You're focused. You're not making a peep. And here it is. You're hearing everything you're hearing every one of your classmates, your buffoon-like classmates, and what they're saying. And guess what? You heard everything. You might even figure out things you may not want to hear. Not saying that's a good thing, but just putting it in brother's perspective of what not only is it a circumspect thing, it's a thing, it's a virtue that's very good to master, man. It's a skill. It's a skill to literally be quiet. Okay, it's a Sirach 21 and 26. It just sounds funny. All right, this is Sirach 21 and 26. It says, this is the heart of fools is in their mouth, but the heart. Oh, excuse me. It says, but the mouth of the wise is in their heart. Meaning what? Plainly put, the wise men of Israel, the wise men of Yahweh Shemi Shai, all right, their heart, essentially what their heart is going to remain, what? In their heart. Their heart's not going to be in their mouth, meaning what? They're not going to be running their mouth, consistently, all right, at the wrong times, And it's funny because even, and see, this is why it's a good skill to master, even if you're amongst the congregation, all right, and maybe it's more, one or two more elders, than usual. You might, something might pop up in the discussion. Brothers are talking, there's a Quanyam are, they're breaking bread and such. Here it is, it's the right moment, and you also have the right thing to say, but even then, that may not even be the right moment, and vice versa. Here it is, it's bad timing, and you know the right thing to do. But guess what? Because of the wrong time, at that wrong instant, it could just be, it's not gonna go the way that you think it is. All right, I'm keeping it broad because essentially this covers all aspects. It's not like the Lord isn't gonna be in your life not gonna be in your life 24/7, because He is. All right, so in every which way that brothers may be, whether even outside camp and also in all brothers' walks of life within the truth, whether it's at work, outside of work, or just out and about, going to the supermarket, going out to eat, whatever. All right. These are skills that we have to master ultimately to what? Just to be a better man of the Lord. To also be a better man as well. All right. Because that's what the Lord is doing to us as well. All right. He's turning us into men. All right. And as men of the Lord, especially as a young man in this faith, all right, as of right now, we're not supposed to have much to say. All right. Besides what? Being, of course, the faithful sayings and also the only thing that you really offer at the altar is what? Yourself. All right, as we have been doing for years, and our elders before us, and also the apostles before us. Everybody has gone through the same oracle. All right, so Lord's will in this video is edifying and exhorting. All right, this is just another skill and also another hump. All right, a trial, as brothers may see it. Whatever. That brothers have to get over, So again, Lord's will in this video is edifying. I'm going to close out by giving infinite praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakudash. Double honors again to the apostles and elders. I give Muslim, known to teach and rule well. And peace and blessings be unto you, fellow Akim, brothers that also push out this word in truth, sincerity, and in faith. Shalom.